Chapter 3. The alley behind West 38th Street was already dying when they spilled into it. Matthew felt it immediately, not in sight, but in sound. The alley no longer had depth. Everything overlapped, feet slapping pavement, voices bouncing off brick, the wet, arrhythmic breathing of the infected threading through it all like rot beneath music. It was a soundscape without order, and that frightened him more than the screaming. "Left," Whitley said, yanking his sleeve. "Fence is open." Matthew stumbled once, caught himself on the staff, and followed the pull of her voice. Sunlight stabbed through the gaps between buildings, white-hot and merciless. Even with the sunglasses, his vision collapsed into pain and blur. He shut his eyes and ran blind, counting steps, trusting memory and the steady pressure of Whitley's grip. Behind them, something shrieked. Not words, not even hunger, frustration. They vaulted the broken fence one by one. Carl went first, nearly face-planting on the other side. Saoirse followed, helping Matthew Jr. over with a strength that surprised Matthew even in the chaos. Morrigan lifted Raymond without hesitation, movements precise, efficient, as if she were following instructions only she could see. Whitley passed Lilith across the fence, then hauled herself over with a grunt of effort. Matthew went last. Hands grabbed at his coat as he climbed. Fingertips brushed his ankle. Nails scraped skin. He kicked backward, felt something give, then landed hard on the other side. He turned instantly, staff sweeping wide. Nothing followed. Not immediately. They ran again, deeper into the warren of backyards and service alleys that fed into Ogeechee Road. The smell of gasoline hung thick in the air, mingled with garbage and blood. Somewhere close, something burned. Thor limped beside them, stubborn and furious, blood matting his blue-grey fur. Every few steps he glanced back, lips peeled in a silent snarl. He was hurt badly. Matthew could hear it now, the hitch in his breathing, but he did not slow. They burst onto Ogeechee like swimmers breaking the surface. The road was chaos. Cars sat abandoned at odd angles, doors flung open, engines still running in some, alarms blaring in others. Smoke billowed from a wreck near the intersection, the smell of scorched rubber stinging Matthew's nose. People ran in every direction, colliding, shouting, falling. Some got back up, some didn't. The infected moved among them like broken marionettes, fast enough to be terrifying, clumsy enough to be unpredictable. One slammed face first into a parked car, bounced off, then kept going without hesitation. "Church," Whitley said, across the street. Matthew knew the building by sound and memory. The hollow echo inside its stone walls, the way footsteps softened on old carpet, the thick wooden doors heavy enough to muffle the world. A refuge, if anything, still qualified as one. They crossed when they shouldn't have. Matthew heard the roar of an engine too late. A truck barreled through the intersection, horn blaring, mowing down two infected without slowing. It clipped a sedan, spun, and crashed into a light pole with a scream of metal. The pole came down. Matthew felt the vibration through his feet as it hit the asphalt behind them. They reached the church steps breathless and shaking. Carl yanked on the door. Locked. "Move!" Whitley shouted. Matthew stepped forward, staff raised, and drove it into the wooden door beside the handle with everything he had. The impact reverberated up his arms. He struck again. The old wood cracked, split, and the latch gave way. They fell inside. Darkness swallowed them. The door slammed shut behind them, and for a brief, fragile moment, the noise outside dulled. Not gone. Never gone. But muted enough to breathe. The church smelled like dust and old paper and candle wax. Matthew leaned against the wall, chest heaving, staff clattering to the floor. Whitley slid down beside him, clutching Lilith, her hands shaking so badly she had to brace them against her own knees. Saoirse sank to the floor, pulling her brothers close. Matthew Jr. cried openly now, his small body racked with sobs that sounded too loud in the quiet space. Morrigan rocked Raymond gently, whispering something under her breath. Counting, maybe. Thor collapsed near the door, sides heaving, tail thumping weakly once against the floor. Carl paced. "They're everywhere," he muttered. "Everywhere. This isn't contained." Matthew wiped sweat from his face, fingers coming away sticky with blood that wasn't his. He slid his sunglasses up for a moment, blinking against the dim interior light, then shoved them back down. Even here, the ache lingered. "Listen," Matthew said. They did. Outside, the sounds layered themselves again. Screams, sirens that never finished their wails, gunshots too close together to be coordinated. The city wasn't fighting back. It was unraveling. The radio Carl had dropped back at the house crackled faintly in Matthew's memory, ghost voices of authority dissolving into static. "No help's coming," Whitley said quietly. Matthew didn't argue. He stood slowly, ignoring the way his legs trembled, and began to move through the church by touch. He counted pews, traced walls, found side doors and windows. He listened for echoes, for hollow spaces, for places sound behaved differently. He was building a map in his head the way he always did, piece by piece. "We can't stay here long," he said finally. "Too open. Too many entrances." "Then where?" Carl demanded. Matthew turned toward the sound of the street beyond the walls. Toward the direction of the river, the warehouses, the long industrial stretches where fewer people lived and fewer people would turn. "Somewhere quieter," he said. Outside, something slammed against the church doors. Once, twice. Thor growled, low and weak but unyielding. Matthew tightened his grip on the staff. Matthew knelt beside Thor, pressing a hand to the dog's side, feeling the shallow, ragged rise of his ribs. The injury was bad, deep enough to slow him, to weaken him, but not enough to break him. Not yet. Not like the world outside. "You're going to be okay, boy," Matthew whispered. The sound was rough in his own ears, but Thor's tail thumped faintly, a pulse of determination Matthew needed more than he cared to admit. Whitley moved toward the front doors, glancing at the shattered glass, the splintered wood, the ruined pews near the entrance. "We can't stay here long," she said, almost to herself. "They'll come back." Matthew nodded. He didn't need to look to know she was right. The church offered temporary cover, not safety. Every building eventually gave way. He could feel it in the tremor of the walls, the way the old wood protested underfoot. Carl leaned against a pew, wiping sweat from his face. "Where do we go then?" Matthew straightened, surveying the space by memory. "We need something defensible. Fewer entrances, solid walls, somewhere we can make a stand if we have to." "The warehouse is near the river," Morrigan said softly, eyes still scanning. "Not many people live there. Trucks, fences, good lines of sight." Matthew nodded at her. "You've been paying attention." Saoirse wrapped her arms around Matthew Jr., still shivering, and whispered something Matthew didn't catch. He could feel the tension radiating from the girl, like a tiny storm trying to hold herself together for everyone else. Whitley tapped the 9mm against her palm. "We leave now, before they realize we're hiding." Matthew gathered the family near the back of the church, keeping Thor close. The dog limped but followed immediately, growling quietly at shadows. Matthew lifted the Lawson 380. He checked the slide one last time, listening for the familiar click. Loaded, ready, not enough, never enough. "Okay," he said. "We move in pairs. Stay close, don't scatter. Everyone keeps quiet unless they absolutely have to talk. Understand?" They nodded, some trembling. Matthew Jr. whimpered. Morrigan tightened her grip on Raymond. Thor growled low, ears flat. Matthew led the way to the side door he had traced in his memory. He counted steps, feeling the door frame, listening for the street outside. A faint scrape echoed, a reminder that nothing truly slept. The alley beyond the church was a maze of shadows and debris. Trash cans tipped, papers swirling, the smell of rot thick in the humid air. Sunlight cut harsh lines across the asphalt, glaring, unrelenting. Matthew's sunglasses helped, but only just. Pain pressed behind his eyes with every step, and he shut them for half a second, leaning on memory and instinct. Thor limped ahead, nose to the ground, ears flicking. He paused at intervals, growling low, then moving again. Matthew stayed close, hand on the dog's back when needed. They reached the edge of the street, and Matthew froze. Movement ahead. Two figures, staggering unnaturally, weaving through abandoned cars. No sound from the street other than the faint wail of alarms and distant sirens. The infected, slow, deliberate, with broken, jerking steps. Matthew whispered to Whitley, "Give me the street. Stay on the edges. Keep the kids close." She nodded, hands tight on Lilith. The others flanked him, Thor in the lead and Carl bringing up the rear. Matthew took the first few steps carefully. Every sound was amplified. The scrape of shoes on asphalt, the clatter of trash cans, the distant hum of engines still running. The infected didn't notice them. Not yet. Matthew breathed steadily, counting, listening, timing. One of the figures stumbled, hitting a car door. Metal shrieked. The other turned its head, eyes unseeing, but it seemed to sense something. Matthew froze. The figure started moving toward them. "Move," Matthew hissed. They ran, Thor leading, paws slapping asphalt, body low and determined. Saoirse dragged Matthew Jr., Morrigan carried Raymond, Whitley balanced Lilith, gun held ready. Carl stumbled after them. The warehouses were close, an industrial complex at the edge of the river. Fewer people lived here, fewer streets to navigate. Matthew knew the layout in parts from past trips with Carl. He ran by memory, counting steps, gauging distance by sound. The first obstacle came in the form of a fallen fence. Rusted metal bent in twisted shapes, sharp edges that caught on clothing. Matthew grabbed a length, twisted, shoved and cleared a path for the children. Behind them a scream, human? Infected? Matthew didn't have time to analyze. Just run. They reached the first warehouse. Doors heavy and metal, sliding rather than swinging. Matthew felt the handle, cold, solid, locked from the inside. He pushed with all his weight. Nothing. "Help," Whitley called. Carl shoved and finally the door yielded. They slipped inside. The interior smelled of oil and dust and something older, like the river had left it behind. Dim light filtered through high windows. Boxes and crates offered cover. Pallets stacked in corners. Space to breathe. Space to fortify. Matthew exhaled, staff resting across his knees. Thor collapsed at his feet, but even in pain, the dog's ears twitched, listening. Outside, distant sirens screamed. Shouts carried faintly. The infected roamed the streets like broken marionettes. Matthew crouched, whispering, "We fortify. Barricade entrances. Keep watch. Rotate shifts. Keep quiet. Understood?" No one argued. Saoirse began stacking boxes near the entrance. Morrigan helped Carl drag crates against the rear doors. Whitley worked quietly, pistol resting on her lap, eyes scanning shadows. Matthew took the staff, running his fingers along the metal beams and corners of the warehouse, imagining vantage points, escape routes. Every sound mattered, the creak of metal under weight, the distant hum of traffic, the soft sigh of the river nearby. Hours passed. They worked, silent except for occasional murmurs. Thor whined once, Matthew Jr. cried softly, Raymond demanded attention. Morrigan whispered, counting patterns to keep him calm. Then the first attack came. A section of wall rattled, small, almost imperceptible at first, then a crash. Metal clanged. Something tried to push through a side door. Matthew spun, staff raised, and heard the wet scrape of nails on concrete. Outside, sunlight glared through the high windows. Shadows moved unnaturally. The day had arrived, and it had brought the city with it. Matthew tightened his grip on the staff. "We fight if we have to," he whispered. "Or we run," Whitley said, eyes scanning the shadows. Matthew nodded once. Both options were terrifying. Both were necessary. Outside, Savannah screamed. Inside, the dyers prepared, and the world, bright and broken, waited to test them. The warehouse smelled of oil, dust, and damp wood, but Matthew had no time to dwell on it. Every second counted. The scrape of metal from the side door outside grew louder, more deliberate, accompanied by a low, wet groan that sent a chill straight down his spine. Thor growled, low and dangerous, his injured leg planted stiffly. Matthew pressed a hand against the dog's back, feeling the tension radiate through his body. The blue-nosed pit bull was tired, bleeding, but unyielding, just like his family. Whitley had moved to the front entrance with the 9mm Kimber leveled, eyes sharp. "Matthew," she hissed, voice tight, "they're trying to push the door. I don't know how long it'll hold." Matthew felt the weight of the situation crush him. He closed his eyes for a fraction of a second, counted the steps to the side door, the positions of the pallets stacked as cover, the gaps they could exploit. His mind, trained for sound and touch rather than sight, created a map that no one else could see. "Saoirse," he said softly, "pallets by the side door. Stack them high. Make noise if you have to slow them." The girl's small hands worked quickly, stacking and wedging the wood in place, murmuring encouragements to herself. Morrigan and Carl followed, dragging heavy crates into position. Matthew grabbed the staff and positioned himself near the center of the warehouse, ready to intercept anything that breached the weak points. Every sense strained, ears catching the scraping, the shuffle of movement, the wet thud of bodies colliding outside. Then came the first attack. The side door rattled violently, hinges groaning, metal screeching against the frame. Matthew swung the staff in a wide arc, anticipating the moment the door would give. A clawed hand burst through. He struck it, solid, felt bone crush beneath the oak. The thing fell back, shrieking, not a scream of pain, not entirely human, more a rasping, guttural hiss. Whitley fired once, then twice. Each shot cracked the warehouse like thunder, echoing off walls and steel beams. The first creature fell, hit hard enough to stop its movement. But more came. Always more. Matthew felt the panic rising, but forced it down. He counted steps, movements, angles. Staff swung again, catching another limb before it could reach the family. Thor lunged at a body, teeth clamping hard, growls deep and fierce despite the pain in his side. "Keep moving," Matthew shouted. "Don't let them corner us." Saoirse dragged Matthew Jr. toward the rear pallets. Morrigan shouted Raymond with uncanny calm. Whitley pivoted to cover the front with her firearm, and Carl banged a crate against the side door to delay any breach. The attack was relentless. The creatures didn't tire. They didn't hesitate. They came at the warehouse again and again, relentless and wrong in the way the world should not allow. Matthew's body moved automatically. Strike, pivot, block, push, repeat. Each swing of the staff, each strike of his knee or shoulder, counted. Every motion was practiced, precise, necessary. Outside, the city continued its descent. Screams and sirens blended into a single oppressive soundscape. Cars abandoned, engines still running. Broken glass glittered like jagged sunlight on the asphalt. Somewhere, a building collapsed. Somewhere else, a child screamed. Inside, the family clung together, each member performing their role. Morrigan whispered counting patterns to calm Raymond. Saoirse dragged her brother with determination beyond her years. Whitley fired when needed. Carl improvised barricades, and Matthew orchestrated it all by sound. Thor, despite his injuries, struck with precision, snapping and biting when creatures breached too close. Matthew's hand stayed on the dog's back between attacks, grounding himself in the familiar pulse of life beneath fur and muscle. Then the radio buzzed, faint, scratchy, almost drowned in the chaos. Matthew moved closer, pressing a hand to the speaker. All residents advised, shelter in place, avoid downtown corridors, repeated incidents, National Guard deployment pending. Static swallowed the rest. Matthew exhaled slowly, counting it out. It was enough. Information, even fragmented, gave him options. It confirmed what he already suspected. Savannah was collapsing. Help wasn't coming. They were on their own. Another thud on the door. A low, wet thump. Matthew braced, staff swinging. Thor lunged. The creature hit the barricade hard, splintering wood, teeth snapping. Matthew swung again, meeting the clawed hand with oak and sending it flying back. "Back to the pallets!" he shouted. Whitley herded the children and Carl to the stacked crates at the far side. Matthew positioned himself between them and the breach. Staff held like a sword. Minutes passed, though it felt like hours. The attack subsided slightly. Outside, the faint shuffle of movement persisted, but no direct hits. The first wave had passed, leaving a tense silence behind. Matthew knelt beside Thor again, checking the dog's breathing. Whitley moved to his side, hand on his shoulder. "We can't stay here," she said quietly. "They'll come back." Matthew nodded, wiping sweat and blood from his forehead. "We move at night. Cover our tracks. Keep Thor in front. Keep the kids quiet. No one goes alone." Saoirse wrapped her arms around Matthew Jr., whispering, "We can do it, Daddy. We have to." Matthew squeezed her shoulder. "Yes, we do." Morrigan looked up, eyes sharp, calculating. "We'll need routes, supplies, water." Carl nodded. "I know a place, a warehouse closer to the river, less traffic, easy to fortify, could hold a small group if it comes to it." Matthew considered it, counting steps, imagining the route by sound, wind and memory. "Then we move at nightfall. We survive today. Tonight, we plan." Outside, Savannah burned in chaos. Inside, the dyers prepared, hearts pounding, minds sharp, and the city, bright and broken, waited for the night. If you want, the next part can expand into Chapter 4, where they begin the nighttime escape, including stealth through the city, first close encounters with infected in daylight, and a more detailed defense plan for the river warehouse. Do you want me to start that next?